Okay, technical difficulty. My microphone arm just cut loose. Whoops.
Yeah, that's what happens when you do a live show. When things
Boom!
go wrong, they go wrong live.
Yeah. All right, roger that. So here we are. Good morning. It's Taco Tuesday. Aye. Wake the hell up, everybody. So, big win on the border. Big win on the border. And what is that? Well, funny story. Turns out the Constitution doesn't say shit about the president not being allowed to do the money. Now, let's remember the 10th Amendment tells us that all powers not enumerated by the Constitution and given to the Congress belong to the people and the states. Interestingly, that doesn't say anything about El Presidente, for whom, as is referenced in here, Hamilton, because you Democrats love Hamilton all of a sudden. Okay, real quick aside, that musical would not have any legs at all. It would not be the ticket-selling beast that it is if it hadn't been from some activist asshole making an absolute spectacle of himself by attacking the vice president at the show. That's literally the draw of the Hamilton musical. So that said, the Hamilton held that good government requires energy in the executive, which is essential to the protection of the community from foreign attacks and the steady administration of the laws. So, I don't particularly like that argument, but it is a valid.
It's something to
claim.
think about, at least.
I do have some concern with the president usurping too much power. But let's be real. The president that we're talking about, God Emperor Donald Trump, the truest hallmark of his presidency so far has been the overturn of executive orders. He has just dismantled the executive orders from the Obama administration, who abused them extraordinarily. Now, I would go so far as to point out that Clinton and Bush both wrote a crap load of executive orders, but the executive orders from Clinton and Bush were, by and large, proper executive orders. A proper executive order does not change law. It doesn't change how bathrooms are labeled in public schools in individual states, for example. What an executive order is supposed to do in the normal course of business is basically it's the CEO's policy on how business is conducted within the building, within the administration. Now, that's not to say that he gets to stroke his pen and declare war. No, it's more. If you look at the hundreds or the several hundred executive orders that came out of like Clinton and Bush, by and large, they're things like, okay, the documents that need to be disposed of are shredded on Tuesdays when we hire the big truck to come. And we're not talking about destroying classified material and stuff like which.
Yeah, the Sid and Hillary's emails.
Yeah, destruction of classified email is an important thing as well. Not email. Destruction of classified documents. There are some documents that exist, are classified, and then when they've outlived their usefulness, they need to be destroyed. And that's not a whole thing about evidence or whatever. That's a thing about protecting the information in the document from foreign powers. But, it might be on Tuesday we take all the ID badges that are left over from people that don't work here anymore. Those have to be destroyed because they're sensitive. If somebody was to get a hold of them, that makes counterfeiting easy. It's stuff like that. Whose job is it to clean the bathroom on Thursday? Whose job is it to go and scoop the first poodle's poop. That's the stuff that executive orders do. When are the security shifts? Who has access to the press room? That's normal executive order stuff, right?
This is more about discretionary spending anyway, though. And discretionary spending is, well, discretionary. It's money that can be spent on matters of national security without having to pass them through the Congress. And it's set up that way on purpose so that if there is ever some emergency or threat that does not need to be bogged down in years of bureaucracy, basically, if the executive branch needs to point the army at a thing for a temporary amount of time, it needs to have the money to be able to do that.
Yes, and importantly, I'm glad you mentioned the money that way. Right up here, we've got a quote from Pelosi. The president is negating the Congress's most fundamental principles, the Constitution's most fundamental principle, the separation of powers. Pelosi said on Wednesday, by assaulting the Constitution's power, our power of the purse. Our power of the purse. Yes, all spending originates in the House. That is absolutely correct. And that's why Obamacare is unconstitutional. That's a big problem. That was a major argument with Obamacare, is it did not initiate the legislation for Obamacare. It actually started in the Senate, not the House. And so it was never okay for Obamacare to be approved under the conditions that it was. In this case, however, what you're talking about is military funds from the military budget. Here's the thing, Nancy. You already approved that spending. You already approved the budget.
Don't die on air, dude.
Right? You already approved the budget through the most recent continuing resolution for that money to be spent on military spending. Once you've put money into the military budget, the allocation of that money has its absolute buck stops here last vote made by the Commander-in-Chief of the United States Armed Forces. So Nancy's complaint here, that he's somehow usurping the power of the purse, I don't know. I don't know if she's wrong or if she's lying.
I do.
The fact of the matter is she's wrong, but there's a chance that she's so drunk with bourbon and dementia that she's forgotten.
It's bourbon and dementia and communion wine, because I'm a good Catholic. Yes, a Catholic.
She's not a good Catholic. The church has asked her to leave until she finds
the church
God
is
and
wrong.
gets help.
The church is wrong. Nancy Pelosi's right. The church is wrong. I gotta do this, sir.
So this is not the sort of whataboutism that I usually engage in actively, but I found this article amusing. Grabby News. I never even heard about these guys before. Things Democrats have funded that cost more than the border wall. Rural utility services, sugar subsidies, community development grants, the United Nations, Amtrak, unused real estate, foreign aid, waste, fraud, and abuse. Okay, unused real estate. Y'all remember a few years ago, there was that big fraud, waste, and abuse scandal where guys from the Office of Property Management, I don't remember the name of the organization. Is it mentioned here? Anyway, the Office of Budget and Property Management or whatever. I'm forgetting the acronym right now. But you remember a bunch of them got mixed up in this scandal where they got caught. We've got 3,000 some vacant buildings owned by federal agencies that are just sitting there costing us money and not being used, right? And another 8,000 that are...
How many of those are black sites?
Not 3,100 of them.
So that's kind of the point that, look, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but none of them are being used? I don't know if I buy that.
And an additional 7,800 that are partially empty or underutilized. Honestly, I would say the probability here is that in in some number of the 7,800 there are black sites, and in the 3,100 some there are not. But one of the things about a black site is it's not listed on official documentation. So of those 3,100 buildings that are vacant, I would say it's a good bet that none of them are black sites, because if they were, they'd be off book.
Fair enough.
Also, we tend to keep black sites offshore.
Yeah. But yeah, so
But remember, these guys got caught throwing these huge, extravagant, hundreds of thousands of dollars of parties in Vegas and stuff. And there was the guy that was the head of the office that we pictures surfaced of him in a hot tub full of champagne on the taxpayers' dime. You remember this scandal, right?
yes.
Okay.
There's just so many. They all start to blur together.
I just want to make sure it's not like Hillary Clinton's RFID chips under Hillary Care that everybody but me apparently seems to have forgotten.
It's the Mandela effect.
It's like, was nobody alive in the 90s? Does nobody remember this? It was major news. It was a big deal.
But yeah, so long story short, there's actually some wall that's going to get built.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. And look, if you don't think border security is national security, like I don't know how we have a conversation. Like if we're going to do math, we have to agree that 1 + 1 = 2 and that 1 × 1 = 1, like so if you don't actually think that securing the border is a valid function of the military and the executive branch, like how do you tie your shoes? Like, seriously. But yeah, this wall getting built. And now, all of a sudden, Nancy Pelosi, I'm so concerned about the Constitution. It's our Constitution. All of a sudden, the Democrats are constitutional scholars. And, dear God, they have a problem with military budget cuts. Now, let's be clear. The military budget is not being cut. The military budget is what it is, and for the past few years, it's been somewhere in the order of $700 billion, give or take. And a certain percentage of that $700 billion is discretionary spending, as in it's up to the discretion of the commander-in-chief, and often, the top generals or whatever, they'll bring their recommendations, and that'll be the thing that discretionary spending gets spent on. And so some of the discretionary spending is going toward building the wall. And now, of course, there's articles popping up. Like, oh, this is what is not getting paid for now that the wall is getting paid for. And no, that's not how it works. Yes, just because discretionary spending is not going over here and instead now it's going over there, we're not cutting military jobs. We're not defunding essential programs. No. It's just, it's
apparently
ridiculous.
We're defunding some of the training and equipping of Afghan security forces, which
Like
sounds to me like an Afghan national security problem, not a U.S. problem. Now, okay, in fairness, that could slow down our leaving Afghanistan, but frankly. Okay, here's the thing about Afghanistan. Afghanistan is full of people who are too stupid to learn. And I know that sounds cold, but we've talked about it on the show before, but...
That's hate speech and racist, Chris.
Quite honestly, we're talking about people whose primary education has led them to be adults that are almost fully incapable of acquiring new concepts through training and language acquisition. They're too dumb to learn. And this is not they're brown people. No, I've been there. I've seen more than one guy shoot himself in the face to death because he didn't understand how to set a rifle down in a rifle rack.
Shoot himself in the face to death? Is there like
Yeah, I just want to be clear that this was not a minor discharge that he lost an ear or something, or the rifle just went off. No, he slammed it into the rifle rack to put his rifle away, and a bullet went through his head, ending his life.
Okay.
Twice.
Same guy?
No.
I'm sorry. I was
Shot
hanging
themselves
out there.
in the face to death.
But yeah, border wall.
Okay, too dumb to learn. I got a little too excited to spill some coffee on my desk. Okay, too dumb to learn. So no shit, there I was. I'm in an operational center on a base out in Afghanistan, and the local national police, a small team, a couple local national police and a couple of Afghan National Army soldiers, come into the building. They had come on base through security, manned by the local national police and Afghan National Army, and into the operations center where the radios were, where the comms were, with the first sergeant, the commander, and a couple of platoon sergeants and myself in the building. And they walked in with a shoebox that they set on the table, and then they opened the shoebox to show us what was in it. It was a large shoebox. The thing that was in the shoebox was an IED large enough to take out the building and everyone in it. Small building, large shoebox. It would have been just enough to injure or kill everyone in the room and the two rooms connected, and probably do substantial damage to the radio equipment. And this wasn't an attack. This was not an attack. This was, they found it while they were outside walking and didn't know what to do with it. So they brought it into the Tactical Operations Center to ask us what they should do with it. So when I say too dumb to learn, this is not hyperbole.
Wow. We should do a special one day where you just go through all the stuff you're allowed to talk about that's in that vein.
It's blood curdling.
Like, I mean, did you shit your pants?
Not like, a special. No, you know what? I should just go to a fucking comedy club on a Friday night and just stand there and talk about war.
I mean, wow. So anyhow, what? Border security. You got anything that doesn't involve the footbread people?
No more. Nothing about the. No, I'm done. I'm good.
Yay, Taco Tuesday. We're actually securing our border.
I did want to say this. So the Supreme Court has sided with Trump. He does get his $3 billion, and for that.
I don't give a rat's ass what the hell you think.
We're going to call that a Totar Win. So,
yeah,
we'll see you tomorrow morning for WTF CNN. We don't know what we're going to be talking about tomorrow morning because, frankly, I'm hoping they put their feet real deep in their mouths today. So y'all be safe out there and have a good day at work.
No, dude, we're going to be talking about Crazy Joe's bloody eyeball.
Maybe. Who knows? Anything could happen today. It's CNN! Y'all be good out there.